The Stranger's Farewell. Written by Palwasha Bazga Salam. Long, long ago, in a land as far from here as the sun, yet as near to you as your breath, if you had wandered to the outskirts of a certain town, you would have come across a small house set in a well-tended garden. It was the home of a poor young man called Alim and his wife, Aisha. It was dusk when this tale begins, a time when roses are reddest and birds sing their sweetest songs. Aisha was at her stove stirring bean soup when through the window she saw a tall stranger dressed in green walking towards their door. "Come in," she called. "The door is not locked." The stranger entered, saying, "Thank you, dear lady, I wonder if I might rest here for a while before I journey on. I have been traveling for many days and I'm feeling a little tired and thirsty." "I'm sure you are not only tired and thirsty, but hungry, too," said Aisha. "You are most welcome to rest here and refresh yourself." "Yes, yes, welcome." "Welcome," cried Alim, "do come in. It would give us great pleasure to share the delicious soup that my wife is making." So the stranger stayed and together they ate the soup. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the stranger stood up and stepped towards the door. "I must leave you now," he said. Well, as we all know, small actions sometimes have large consequences. Just before he opened the door, the stranger turned, smiled, and said, "May the next thing you do last until you say enough. And he disappeared down the path. "Oh. The poor man has gone out into the cold, and he has no money for his journey. Run after him with this, Alim," cried Aisha. She reached into her pocket, took out a silver coin she had saved there, and handed it to Alim. Immediately she felt another coin in her pocket. She took it out and put it on the table. And then she felt another. She took that one out, and sure enough another replaced it. Mesmerized, Aisha repeated this action with the same result over and over. Before long, silver coins were piling higher and higher on the table. Some even spilled onto the floor. "Oh, Alim, I feel quite strange. What is happening?" asked Aisha in amazement. "It seems no matter how many coins I take from my pocket, another one appears from nowhere to replace it. Or am I hallucinating?" "My dear wife," laughed the young man, "did you not hear what the stranger said as he was leaving? I myself thought it a strange farewell, but now I understand. He said, 'May the next thing you do last until you say enough.'" "Enough," said Aisha, clapping her hands with joy, and immediately the coins stopped appearing. The happy couple counted the silver coins, making piles to keep in a safe place to spend as they needed. For the first time in their lives they talked of future plans that were now possible. They would expand their one-roomed house into a home large enough for a family, they would be able to help their relatives and friends, start a small farm, buy a donkey and cart to take their produce to market, and so on. As the young couple's plans gradually came to fruition, their friends and neighbors became curious about how their circumstances had changed so suddenly. So they told them about the stranger's visit, explaining what he had said and what had happened. As we all know, such news travels fast, leaving in its shadow not only happiness and pleasure but also envy and greed. It happened that a wealthy landowner heard the tale and thought, "I must see if I can find this stranger because I could do with the chance that couple had," and he laughed to himself, thinking, "I'll certainly take my time before I say enough. Of course, I'll give a good amount away to people in need." He added this last thought in case his being greedy might jinx any hope of such an encounter actually taking place. The landowner applied himself to the challenge of finding the stranger. He sent servants out far and wide. He drove up and down the highways and byways. Soon, 20 people were busy on his behalf searching for the tall man in the emerald robe. And it happened that one morning, while in conversation with his clerk, the landowner looked outside a window of his mansion and saw a flash of green turning the corner. He rushed out and dashed after the figure. Catching up with him, he begged, insisted, and finally persuaded the stranger to accept his hospitality to rest and take the midday meal in his home. "That is not something do," said the stranger, "but I wish that your first deliberate action tomorrow should last a week." And he went out the door and vanished from sight. The landowner was a bit disappointed because he wasn't given the opportunity to control his own reward with the word enough. But he planned to count his money first thing in the morning and spent the night wide awake, mentally calculating the accumulation of wealth that a week of counting would produce and the additional parcels of prime land that he would soon be able to buy.